All right, today is May 18, 2023. This is the meeting of the Kubernetes Storage Special Interest Group. As a reminder, this meeting is public, recorded, and posted on YouTube. So we are at the beginning of a new Kubernetes release cycle. Version 128, 127 was released a few weeks ago. And in the last meeting, Xing actually got us started and created a new tab in our planning spreadsheet for the 128 planning. For the most part, we copied over the remaining uncompleted items from the 127 side. I will go over that today. Some timelines to be aware of. The cycle has already begun for 128, and June 8th is going to be the production freeze or production readiness freeze. This date means that this is the date where you must have any new features declared and officially kind of approved by having your PRD approved and so on. Then the 16th is enhancements freeze. And then the 10th is code freeze. And sorry, this is 19th of July is code freeze. 26th of July is test freeze. Then docs must be ready by 8th of August and planning to release 15th of August. If you have any items that you think should be in 128 in terms of storage features, now is a good time to bring it up. And we can go ahead and add it to the list and start tracking it as part of the work for the SIG. Beyond planning, there are a couple of items I already see here, PRs that need attention and designs that need to be reviewed. If you have anything that you would like to discuss, please feel free to add to the agenda at any point, and we'll get to it after planning. You can find the link to the agenda in your calendar invite. So with that, we will go ahead and switch over to the planning tab and get started. So I'm going to create a new column here for today. And we'll start getting status updates on where things are for the beginning of this new cycle. Okay, so we have recovering from resize failures, get API changes merged in 128, still needs to support quality of service. Amanth, are you on the line by any chance?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, so we missed the cut last time by a couple of days, so we have most of the code done. So I need to update it and work on one more bit is like to recovery to all the way to the original size. That's something I did not factor in originally, so that's something I'll be working on this release. But this feature should be on track.
Cool. Thank you for that update. So I will keep this as started, and as alpha still the correct designation here?
Yes.
Cool. All right, then next up we have.
Sorry, just a question. Do we need to opt this in, or this is just fine? Do we need to have this opt in for the cap change, or is this already cap is already merged and just need the implementation?
Since we are going to change the if we have to, I'm working on a design that will allow the recovery to the original size. For that, we have to do some minor cap changes.
Okay, I was just wondering if we need to follow the, opt in the cap, and do we need to follow that one for this particular feature?
Yeah.
Okay, so we probably need to add the opt in label for the cap. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Cool. Good question, Shing. Thank you. Next is issues related to assuming mount volumes or mount points. It looks like we might have Jing today. Jing, are you on the call?
Yes. Yeah, sorry. I don't think there's much work recently involved in that, but I plan to look through the recent issues and the bug fixes to see whether what's the next for this. Yeah,
Yeah, I think I remember a couple releases ago, someone fixed one place, but then we had to revert it because of some other issue that it broke. So I think that might be a good one to kind of sync up on and figure out if there's anything we need to do again.
Okay, yeah. Let me search it up, and if I will ping you if I cannot find. Yeah.
Cool, sounds good. Thank you, Jing. Thank you, Michelle. Next is volume group API. So I guess it's alpha this cycle. Is that right, Xing?
Yeah, it's going to be remaining alpha. We're actually still trying to wrap up some changes in the external snapshot repo.
Cool. Thank you. Then we have provision volumes from cross namespace snapshot, PVC, continue alpha work, volume populator work in progress. Anything new there? Mustafa, Michelle, Shing, Ben, anyone have an update?
I see Takafumi. You want to give an update?
Today is no update. Now it's a work in progress now. Volume populator.
Got it.
Oh, I
Okay.
think also, so the design of this also depends on the reference grant API that the SIG network had. But I think we're looking at trying to bring that API into core Kubernetes instead of the gateway APIs where it currently is. I think the networking folks reached out to us and they're looking for help with that.
What does that help look like? I mean,
Basically
are they gonna
helping get the design through and helping also implement the API and the libraries.
But how far had the design already gotten? Like, was it already merged as alpha or beta, or was it just prototypes?
The design is, I mean, so the API has been in the networking gateway API group for a while now, and I think it might even be GA or GA soon. But when they were proposing to port it over to core Kubernetes, I think some things in the API had to change a little bit. And so that discussion is still happening right now, but I do believe it is like the design discussion is close to being finalized. Like it's probably 90% of the way there. And it just needs a little push to get it over.
Well, I guess what I'm asking is like they already have one API, and you said it might already be GA, but like they're going to start over at alpha with a new, slightly modified version of that API, and like
Yes.
that's the plan.
Yeah, because the API that they have is very specific to the networking use case, to their use case. And so when we started discussing how to bring it over to like a core API, we had to, you know, make some changes around some of the semantics to make it more generalizable.
I guess the question that raises is like, are they actually likely to switch over to this new API if they already have something that works for them?
Yeah, so that's why they're asking us for help, right? Because I think from their perspective, they have their API and I don't think they plan to switch. And so now really the push to generalize it is mainly coming from us because we want to use the API for our purposes.
Yeah.
Michelle, will this API move into KK or CRDs in SIG auth?
I don't know if it's a core API or still a CRD, but just owned by SIG auth. I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
Cool. Good. Thank you for the background on that, Michelle. And if folks are interested in helping here, looks like there is an opportunity to go potentially beyond SIG storage work and help with moving some of this logic from SIG networking into core. So if you're interested, please reach out to one of the tech leads or Michelle, and we'll point you in the right direction. All right, next item is CSI volume health, additional metrics and or events, staying in alpha. Still needs end-to-end tests. Any update on this one?
Yeah, so I got a new contributor going to help me with this, but since she's new, so I'm not sure if she would be able to finish that in this release. So we'll be working on it.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Shing. Then we have change block tracking. The design is still in the works. Anything new here?
So we reviewed this again in yesterday's data production working group meeting. I think Ben, if you want to chime in, please as well. So I think right now we are in a good shape, but I think the person who is doing the POC was not in the meeting yesterday, so we're just waiting for them to decide whether they want to go ahead and pursue alpha or not.
Yeah, the feeling in the data protection working group meeting was that the design is as good as it's going to get on paper, and we need to prototype it and build it and try it out and poke at it.
Got it. That's a pretty good place to be. I know this is
Yeah.
super complicated design, so definitely taking a while to get here, but it sounds like it's coming together. Are there any CSI changes that are going to be required for this?
Yes,
Okay.
there was a PR submitted.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay, we should probably discuss that at the next CSI meeting.
Okay.
All right, cool. Thank you for the update on that one. This new RWO access mode looks like it's already done. Do we still need to track this, or can I remove it?
That was a beta, so I think we still need to move that to GA, right?
Do we want to do that this cycle, or
Yeah, I think we have to wait for at least
Okay.
one more release.
so maybe
I mean, we don't have to wait for the release.
We normally wait, right? So we have every time we talk about a feature that just moved to beta, we say we need to wait for one more release before moving to GA. So I think this feature should be treated the same way, right?
I mean, I don't think that's a strict requirement by anything. I think it's mostly a like, are we confident enough in this feature?
Okay, so if we are changing that, then we probably need to go back and look at all the other features that just moved to beta in last release and decide if we want to move them to GA. I thought that's what we went through last time.
I'm just saying it's not like
Yeah.
any hard requirement by the
Okay.
Kubernetes project, right? It's, you know, it's basically each feature owner decides whether or not they have enough, you know, testing and usage and confidence in the future.
Well, probably we should talk about this at the like SIG soldier level, right? Whether we are, as a team, are okay with moving the feature right away to GA.
I guess, is there an opinion on this specific feature? Do we want to move it right away, or do we want to hold off?
I think it's good to just, you know, if we have been saying this for every feature, then I think we should just treat it the same way. Because otherwise then we have to look at every feature and see why this feature is, you know, does not have to wait.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would like to sort of just like, not saying for this particular feature in general, but I think like in general, I don't think that's a policy we have to require for every single feature. I think we can take it on a case-by-case basis, depending on like sort of the size of the feature and the risk of the feature.
Okay, if that's the case, I think I'm fine. We can just go over all the other features as well. Then I'm fine with that.
Okay, sounds good. So I think we'll evaluate on a case-by-case basis whether to wait 1 cycle or 2 cycles from moving to from beta to GA. For this specific one, it sounds like there's consensus. Hold off for another quarter. Anyone object? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one then, and we can reintroduce it when we decide to move it to GA. Then we have runtime assisted mounting. This is a design that Deep was helping drive. It would allow kind of the runtime to handle mounting. Do we have Deep or anybody else on the call who might be able to speak to this?
Oh, I haven't heard from Deep for a long time. I'm not sure if he is still available.
Got it. So I'm going to mark this as looking for a new owner, since we haven't heard from Deep for a while. If anyone is interested in helping drive this feature, please either speak up in this call or reach out offline, and we're happy to kind of point you in the right direction. The feature here is really allowing the mounting to be handled by runtime instead of the host OS. And so if you're interested in this feature, please feel free to reach out. Otherwise, if we don't get an owner for a while, we'll just go ahead and drop this. Next feature is enabling privileged containers for Windows to replace CSI proxy for Windows. Moving to alpha. We were looking for a volunteer. Manu was interested, and Michelle was planning to sync up with Mauricio. Either of those folks able to follow up here?
Yeah, so hi, this is Manu. So we discussed internally, and we are interested in contributing to this. Just a few minutes ago, I reached out to Mauricio over Slack and asked if we could set up some time with him to talk in detail about what the work is and what the and how we can best help out in this respect. He had pointed us to a doc, but that did not answer quite a few of our questions. So we'll follow up with Mauricio. I'll probably try to set up some time to talk with him, and then hopefully in the next couple of weeks we should have more of an update.
Perfect. Glad to hear that. Thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and move Mauricio to reviewer, and then Manu, I'll put you down as the primary here.
Yep, sounds good.
All right, cool. This is going to be alpha this cycle. And let's move on to the next one. So node expansion secret was moved to beta. So same question here. Do we want to move it immediately to GA, or do we want to hold off? Any opinions?
I think last time we were saying we'll wait for a release, unless if somebody think this is does not have to wait.
I would wait.
Okay, so then I'll go ahead and remove this, and we'll wait another cycle before reintroducing it. Okay, so next up is SE Linux relabeling using mount options, CSI driver API change required, beta on by default. So last update, there was a bug. It's disabled in master branch, may need to do another beta in 128. Anything new here?
So fixing the bug, I have a PR open. I have end-to-end test PR open for that. And if I can manage to enable it in 127. I don't know, 3 or 4, then it would be awesome. But yeah, I need to sync with Jordan if we can enable it in a patch release.
Nice. Okay, sounds good. Sounds like this is work in progress, going to remain in beta. Bug is being fixed and maybe cherry picked back to 127 branch if possible. Thank you, Jan. Next is CSI migration, remove entry GCE. Are we committed to this on the GCE side, Matt?
We'd be happy to have help for doing it. We haven't committed resources to it yet, but if somebody wants to do it, we'll definitely work with them.
I think I saw a PR. Somebody was putting together a PR to do this, to remove it, right?
Cool. If you ping me their name, I'll be happy to reach out and encourage
Sure.
support.
Yeah,
But
I think you are on the PR. I'll ping it to you again.
probably, yeah. I guess it's probably true. Thanks.
Awesome. Okay, so this may already be underway, and then Matt and team can help review. So we'll keep an eye on this. I'll get an update next time. This one is for 130, so we're holding off on that. Next one is EBS, was already done. Anything left on the EBS side? Okay, I'll go ahead and remove that.
Sorry, I was speaking on mute. I think the EBS side work is complete, so this can be marked.
Awesome. Thanks for the confirmation, Manu. Then Azure files, we're saving it for 130, and then Azure disk. Anyone have an update on that one? Looks like it's done. Any follow-ups required here?
I believe it's just the cloud provider part because we're waiting for your file to be removed before we can do that, I think.
I see.
I don't know if we need to maybe keep it here.
Okay.
So
let's say remove cloud provider bits in 128 and mark that as not.
So I'm not sure if we can do that on before Azure file is removed, right? Azure file is 1.30. So
got it. So maybe we just remove this altogether then. It doesn't sound like there's anything actionable for 128.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Then Ceph RBD, anything new here?
So Humble has sent an email to the mailing list asking for deprecation because there are no users for this entry plugin. So he sent an email. I don't see any reply to that yet. Basically asking if there are anyone objecting, if there are anyone actually using it.
Got it.
So the entry is just called RBD, right?
Yeah, entry, there's an RBD plugin, but there's no one using it, then it doesn't make sense to move it to GA.
So, but it's possible there is users.
There is a CSI driver, yes. This is what we're talking about, the entry one, right? Does it make sense to move CSI migration for RBD to GA? But since there are no users, then why do we want to do that? Because then we have to make sure that that always works. No one is even using it, then.
Yeah. Like I'm saying, it's possible, like there are users. I can later confirm.
Oh, entry plugin. Did you see Humble's email? If you know there are any other entry RBD plugin users, yep, you can also reply to that.
Okay. Yeah.
No? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good call out, Shing. So for anybody on the call, if you know somebody who's using Ceph RBD, the entry version, they should reply to Humble's email on SIG storage and let us know, because the assumption is that nobody's using it. And instead of doing a clean CSI migration, as we did for a lot of these other plugins, if no one's using it, the plan would just be to deprecate the entry one without a proper migration story. So if you care about Ceph RBD entry, please reach out on SIG storage mailing list.
I think the similar discussions happening for Ceph FS too, right?
Yeah, so CFS, that's more clear, right? They didn't even have an alpha version. So that Humble sent that one out earlier. Also, we didn't get any reply saying anyone's using it. And then for self-RBD, it's just since we already made a lot of effort moving that to beta, but he told me there are no users. I think even Yang and Haman also confirmed that. Whereas from OpenShift side, there are no users using that. So, I mean,
Like, we don't use it, but
Huh?
I can't speak. We don't use it, but I can't speak for other Kubernetes.
I know,
users.
but Humble was saying that this is like they kind of know that there's no user. That's why they didn't really push for this. So if there are no user, then I just don't see why we want to make this effort, because then after GA, you still want to make sure it's always works, right? So yeah, so let's
so
see if there are anyone.
let's keep them both here and see what happens. For folks on the call, if you or someone you know is using Ceph RBD or Ceph FS, please reach out and let us know. Otherwise, it will get deprecated. Next is Portworx. Did we end up getting any contacts at Portworx?
Yeah, I asked Grant. So he said they definitely are users. So
Okay.
so this is definitely that part we know.
Got it.
But he said they need some thorough testing before they want to move that to beta on by default. Right now it's off by default.
Okay.
So they say not 1.28, probably 1.29.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and drop it for 128. We can reintroduce. Actually, I'll leave it here for tracking, I guess.
Yeah.
129. Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Shane, for the update on that one.
So just wondering for some other in-tray like NFS, there's no migration paths, right? They will
No.
keep.
Yeah, because there's no necessarily single driver necessarily there, so no migration path for those as far as I understand.
And we'll keep those in-tray like forever.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. But oh, maybe it just community maintain that, right? No one like
Yes,
that.
the NFS iSCSI tree will remain and will be community maintained.
Okay.
Okay, next up is always honor reclaim policy. This was so we'll check with Deepak on end-to-end tests. Anyone have an update on this one?
Yeah, I don't think Deepak will have time to work on E2 test, unfortunately.
Got it. Do we need volunteers to work on the E2E tests?
Yeah, if anyone else is interested in helping, that'll be great.
Cool. So if anyone's interested in jumping in, this might be a kind of low barrier to jump in on. If you are interested, feel free to reach out to Xing or any of the tech leads on the call, and we can help you get started.
Yeah, I think from the AWS side, we may be interested in making some upstream contributions to either this or some of the other items here. We'll need to understand what the work is, but as and when we have bandwidth, we will try to contribute on this.
Awesome. That'd be great.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Manu. I'll note that here, and then if you decide, just let us know.
Yeah. I just can't make any commitments in terms of the timelines yet without evaluating, you know.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Cool. Thank you. Next up is control volume mode conversion between source and target PVC. So again, same story. It's already beta, moving it to GA. Do we want to do it this cycle or wait? I think we decided to wait before moving to GA. Anybody object to that?
I think we should wait because we actually want the backup vendors to make a change in their logic if they are relying on this feature, because otherwise they can be broken. Because we are also going to move that flag in the external provisioner and snapshotter to true. There's a feature flag for this feature, so once we enable that, if they don't change their logic, then it could be broken. So
Got
for-
it.
should
That
we
makes
give it more
sense.
time? Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and remove it from 128, and then we can reintroduce it in 129.
Okay.
Next up is better default storage class, GA in 128. So I guess this work should start now.
Yeah, I checked with Roman. We want to do GA in this release.
Okay, so it sounds like Jan, you've confirmed we'll target GA in 128.
Yes.
Cool. All right, we'll keep it here. And has work started or not yet?
Not really.
Okay, so we'll keep that as not started and then keep tracking it for 128. Thanks, Sean. Next is quality of service for volumes. So I know Sunny's been working on this. I assume she'll continue to drive this to alpha this cycle. Anything new here from Matt, Sunny, or anyone else?
Nothing new. It's something we want to discuss in this meeting today, in the design session.
Perfect.
One quick question, actually not a question, one quick comment. So I wanted to say thank you to Sunny for incorporating the feedback on the KEP. I think we reviewed the latest changes, and it pretty closely aligns with what we are trying to do here in AWS. We have been getting a lot of interest from customers on this, and in order to unblock our customers, we have gone ahead and implemented a temporary custom annotations-based solution for this capability. But we are very, very interested in seeing the standardization effort being completed and agreed upon. So I would love to be part of that discussion. Unfortunately, I do have a hard stop right now, right after this, but I did want to say that there are a couple of things that we would like to clarify about this, and it would be great if we could have a discussion around that. If not today, then at some point in the very near future.
So Sunny, maybe we could set up a follow-up meeting to discuss this where Manu and folks can join as well.
Yeah, sounds good. Is there any time you prefer?
How about we discuss the timing of that on Slack or something that may be better use time.
I think that sounds good.
Yeah, and also just to add, Manu, thank you for the comments. We will Google will also probably be doing a custom annotation type thing while the CAP matures. So maybe we should also discuss what exactly you're doing so that we can not be totally inconsistent between Google and AWS as well in terms of the interim solution.
Yeah, that was exactly what I wanted to cover as part of a design meeting as well. The solution that we have in place is, while it's proprietary for now, I think there is some room to kind of have other storage providers utilize that as well in the short term until the final thing becomes available. So if you folks are interested in utilizing that, we are more than happy to talk about how we can make that possible. So
cool, great.
All right, thank you both for the updates there. Sounds like this design is moving forward full speed.
Yeah.
Next
sorry,
I
need to drop. Sorry, so okay, I need to drop. But
yep, we'll ping you on Slack.
Yeah, sounds good. Look forward to it.
All right,
thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Next is efficient mount time handling of FS group. Looks like we don't have any owners for this. Jan, I think you were going to check with Jonathan.
Jonathan is here.
Jonathan, is this something that you will continue to drive?
Guess he's not really here. I'm pretty sure he didn't start anything, and I don't know. Okay, so can we keep it as it is?
Yeah, I think the challenges require some support from kernel, so I don't know where we are with those things.
Got it. So it sounds like this is effectively being dropped, and I think that's fine. I'll go ahead and remove it, and if we decide to pick it up again or we find a new volunteer, we can reintroduce it.
There's an update from Jonathan in the chat.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thanks for the update, Jonathan. Okay, next item is robust volume manager reconstruction, beta on by default in 128.
It is the same as the Linux. It has been reverted. I have a PR waiting for reviews.
Awesome. Thank you, Jan, for the update. Next up is PV last phase transition time. This is alpha for this cycle. Anything new here? Okay. Mark that as no updates for now. Sorry, go ahead.
Hold on. Yeah, there is a API PR on review assigned to Michelle.
Awesome. So it looks like this is already moving forward. Thank you for that update, Jan. Next up, we have address issues. PVC created by stateful sets will not be auto removed. This was moved to beta. It sounds like we want to hold off before we move to GA. Anybody object to that? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and delete this. And actually, let me go back here and mark this as done. Okay. Next is volume expansion for stateful sets. So it looks like design is planned for 128. Anything new here?
No, yeah, I think design is still planned. We have had some reviews. Like I asked some folks from SIG apps to review it, so yeah, we should be able to make some progress this quarter.
Cool. Sounds good. Thank you, Hamad. Next up is non-graceful node shutdown, GA in 128. And anything new here?
Yeah, so I think Ashutosh says he's going to get back to me on Monday. He said most likely he can start this, but he wanted to check something before get back to me.
Okay, sounds good. So then we've got a couple of items that look like they're not committed for 128. First is run kubelet without root. And anything on that item? Is it okay to drop this? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drop it if there's no objections. And then same thing for the next one. Looks like there is no owner and no one has committed to pick this up. So I will go ahead and drop it. Okay. Anyone have an item that should be on this list that is not yet on this list? Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and switch back to our agenda doc and go through the rest of the agenda here. So first up, we have PRs to discuss. Rion, write end-to-end tests for storage V1 CSI driver endpoints plus 3 endpoints. Are you on the call? Can you talk about this?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me properly?
Yes.
All right. Last meeting, we were here to say, or to basically announce that we're going to start looking at all endpoints for storage that does not have conformance tests. And we started to work on that. We picked up three quick wins, the delete storage collection and the patch and the replace for the same. There was test in place for create, read, list, and delete. So what we did is we looked at the pattern of that test corrected for, because there was a lot of changes recently in the way E2E test is written for conformance. So we updated it to have the right stylish arrangements for conformance tests. And then we added the 3 new endpoints. So now that new test cover all 7 endpoints for that specific resource. So the idea is to have this test reviewed. We already have had a quick review with only 1 small nit. So I'll appreciate some more reviews. It is 4:45 in the morning in New Zealand where our people are. So shortly, within the next few hours, we will quickly fix the nit and hopefully get this on the test grid as soon as possible. Then the idea, once we got this on the test grid, it has to run its 2 weeks flake free. Once it's passed the flake free, we will promote it to conformance. And then we plan to remove the current test to reduce the test load. So basically then have just 1 single test testing all 7 endpoints. But we'll only do that once we monitor it at least for a couple of weeks to make sure that the promoted test does not flake on us. And we don't remove a good test, replacing it with a bad test. So we do monitor afterwards.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the update, and thank you for giving an update so early in the morning your time. I appreciate it. It sounds like a follow-up step here is let's just make sure we're getting folks to help review this. So if folks on the call can help review and get this moved along, that would be awesome. And then once it gets merged, looks like it'll go into a 2-week quarantine to ensure it's not flaky, and then it should be done.
Yep. Thank you very much. We'll really appreciate some reviews. And it is Friday in New Zealand. So if we'll try and get to the reviews today, otherwise early next week on your Sunday, we'll deal with it, get it in as soon as possible. And then the monitoring for the 2 weeks flake free. We at the moment can only see 2 days on test grid, but we have a trick that we basically screenshot the test grid, monitor it. So we'll come back in 2 weeks time. We'll be here reporting on the flake freeness if it is that is the case with the promotion PR.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you so much
Thanks, everybody.
For the update there, and folks on the call, please help review.
It's our pleasure. Thank you very much.
All right, next up is design review. So Sunny, for the CSI spec modify volume, it sounds like you're going to set up a follow-up meeting to discuss with folks. So if anybody's interested, please reach out to Sunny offline on Slack, and she can help get you added to the meeting. But if there's anything you want to talk about in this meeting, Sunny, feel free.
Yeah, so just bring everybody up to speed that the design decision considering all the storage parameter is that we will use the volume QoS class as a medium for cluster admins to manage the configurations, and then the end user will apply the volume QoS class for different performance parameters setting. And there are some discussions or questions coming up from the design that's new to the group. The first one is, do we want to make the volume QoS class as immutable, and then end users can only change the volume QoS class to get different performance configurations. And I think, Xing, you mentioned that this use case doesn't work for your product. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
Right. So for us, it's more, since our case is more admin driven, so that's why I actually brought up the volume QoS class case, that the admin go apply and make changes to the volume QoS class, then we can apply that for every volumes, but not like directly renaming that on a particular volume. So so it's more, when you're changing this, it's more like affecting everything that is using that QoS class.
But I guess in your case, like even if you change the QoS class definition, it doesn't immediately apply to all the volumes. You have to go one by one to each volume to.
But that's why I
update
thought.
it.
But that's why I thought the proposal actually, commonly that case, right? Because you have this 2 paths. One path is you go modify the QoS class parameters, and then it's going to, well, there will be a controller, the resizer controller will be modifying all the volumes that has that QoS class, right? So that model would work for us.
But I guess the difference is in the normal, in say outside of Kubernetes, in the normal case, an admin has to go one by one to each
that is
volume.
current. That is the
like-
current case, but we can make a API available for us to go apply that, right? So right now,
But I think my question is it safe? Is it safe to just broadly go apply it to all of the volumes that we're proposing to do in Kubernetes, right? Or would you want it to be more controlled per workload? That way, you know, we don't like apply the changes to everything in the cluster and then break all the workloads in the cluster.
no, of course, only those, only if it actually have compliance that you can apply for, right? You cannot apply for if it does not work. So you are changing from the same let's say same silver to gold. So either you apply it using API or you applied it in the UI is the same thing. We are going to use the same API underneath.
But I think the difference is sort of the normal flow, right? Because in today's case, somebody has to go one by one to apply the changes. And if, say, that causes some disruption to a workload, they can like go back and, you know, roll it back, right? And they have that control. But then if we automated this in Kubernetes, right, it would just kind of like go apply it everywhere. And then like a bunch of things might break and then we have to go roll it all back across everything again.
Right, but I think it's the same kind of API, right? So if you
I know it's the same API. I'm just saying it's like a change in procedures, right? Because it's the same API, but in today's case, a person has control over rolling it out to their workload. Whereas in the Kubernetes case, if we just go and iterate over all the volumes and apply it, that doesn't really give control on a per workload basis.
Well, so in this case, when someone's changing the parameters in the volume QoS class, that's still a admin who understands, right, what it is going to change. It's not like just like a regular user go change that, right? So the admin would have some knowledge and understand he's changing something that is compliant from, let's say, A to B.
But Shing, don't you think there also needs to be a self-serve model?
Yeah, so just to pile on in that, like one of the motivating examples we have for this cap is exactly the case where the application dev who is not Kubernetes cluster admin is tuning a workload in exactly the same way that the application dev who is not a cluster admin chooses the size of their disks. They are also tuning the IO.
Right. So that's I know that if you look at the diagram that Sunny has there, yeah, that covers one case, right? Yeah, that one is still there. I'm not saying that one is not a case, but I'm just saying that's not something that works for us.
Wait, but how can we address that case if we can't? If like the only changes we can do are at a cluster admin is the only one who can change the volume QoS class.
No, that's not what I'm saying. Saad, can you share that diagram? I think that diagram is actually pretty clear. I'm not saying just one way. That's definitely not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that for us to be able to support something like this, we need that second case. That's all I'm saying. Right. So I think this diagram actually captured everything.
Yeah, one doesn't preclude the other.
Okay. I thought you had said that modifying the QoS name in the PVC was not acceptable.
Oh, I'm just saying that does not work for us. I'm not saying that's not working for this cap, right? So because I think this
Okay.
diagram captured everything.
I'm sorry.
Right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's also because like in vSphere, at least currently, you cannot modify like QoS of existing volumes. It only affect new volumes that were created from the same storage policy. So that's
Right, but you can actually go change it and then apply it to the volumes, right? So what I'm saying is we actually have those APIs. We actually have those APIs already that you could do this like reconfigure. So we
I
could
see, but it has to apply to all of
all the volumes, right?
the volumes. You can't do it per volume.
I
see.
guess-
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
I guess what I'm wondering though is if, say, in the vSphere implementation, we can kind of like hide that restriction and still like create a second QoS class and then, you know, go through the first method of a PVC being able to control wind change. Because I feel like in general, like just the flow of like an admin changing the QoS class and then having that just roll out to all the volumes, I think is kind of dangerous or kind of risky.
Yeah, but
So
like,
I'm wondering if we can like
that's how the
hide that
system
detail.
works, though.
But how can you?
No, I think in this case,
hide
it's not
that
how the
detail?
system works, right? Like in this case, we're saying like someone has to change the definition of the QoS class and then they have to like go apply it to each volume one by one, right? So I'm wondering if we can like kind of somehow hide that in the implementation.
How do you suggest to hide that without having a volume QoS class?
Yeah, because like if it's actually the case that IO speeds are controlled for like by like the whole volume system, I mean, like that's just a reality of the implementation.
So I've got another slightly higher level question that I think is related. So I sorry, I didn't read the design before this meeting because it was on my to-do list and I didn't get to it, but I did read it during this meeting. And the thing that sticks out to me is that the design calls for the system to apply the QoS class at creation time, but also for it to remain bound to the QoS class throughout the lifetime of the PVC, which is different than storage classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Storage classes, they can be deleted, they can be changed, and Kubernetes won't do anything. So if we're going to go with this design, I mean, first of all, I think that's weird. You got to figure out how to explain to users why one class only applies at creation time and this other class applies all the time. But if we are going to do it that way, then yeah, changing the storage class should be the action that causes Kubernetes to do something. I don't think that, I mean, like changing the PVC's storage class from like silver to gold, for example, should cause Kubernetes to the reconciler to reconcile something. If what silver is just changes, I wouldn't expect every PVC that is currently silver to go get updated. That's complicated and hard.
Are you saying not to introduce a new QoS class, just use the existing storage class? Is that?
I guess what I'm saying is, I mean, I don't like the idea of the volume remaining bound to its QoS class throughout its life.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe one way to fix that is to say it's not, but if you change it, then it goes and reads whatever you changed it to and it updates it to that. So like if you define silver and then you create a volume, it's going to get the silver parameters. If you later change what the silver parameters are, the volume won't care. But if you later change the volume to gold, it will go look at what the gold parameters are and change them at that time. And then it will start ignoring what gold is from that time on. So like you could design a system where every time you change the QoS class, it went and looked at what the QoS class was and applied that. But then between mutations to the PVC, you ignored what was in the QoS class. That would be scalable and workable. It might be weird, but it would achieve the desired effect of giving you an ability to mutate the volumes without creating a gigantic scaling problem of like, what do you do when the definition of silver changes and you have 8,000 silver volumes, you know?
Yeah,
So
but so
the left side of this graph, not the right side.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Oh, I said you're saying we will implement the left side of this diagram, but not the right side because of scaling issues.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine, like, where do you even store the reconciler state to tell you that, like, I've gotten through 379 of the, 8,000 volumes, how do you even keep track of where you are in the process of updating things? It's really hard. It's easier just to say, okay, every volume or every PVC has a spec volume QoS class and a status QoS class, and if they don't match, we'll reconcile it. And if they match, we won't do anything.
So I have a question to Zheng. In your implementation, do you actually do things per volume, or are things just done at the sort of storage control plane level? Because like I'm thinking the conflict here is that if our API is actually a modify volume, that kind of presupposes that the storage provider has the ability to do per volume modifications. And
okay, so in our case, it's basically the policy. Adam sets the policy, but then kind of then apply that to all the volumes.
so like you actually don't have per volume modification.
It's right, but it's when you apply that API, it is applying that on every volume level. And there is a volume level API for you to change that, like apply that policy again.
And currently it doesn't support, say, changing the policy of a volume, right? It only supports versioning of the policy and updating to a new version of the policy. Is that right?
Right. It's like you change the policy itself, and then the contents of the policy or the parameters of the policy, then you reapply it.
So folks, time check. We're at the end of the hour. Let's do a follow-up meeting. I think there's a lot of interesting kind of topics that we need to follow up on here. So Sunny, if you can help schedule the next meeting on this, we can continue the discussion.
Yeah, we've actually begun a thread on the SIG storage Slack. So please, everyone pile on.
Yeah, please reply your availability and then also your email so that I can include you in the meeting. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.